How do we know that? We know that because Allah mentioned it in the Quran. So He mentioned the sick and the traveling, right? So a traveling person is someone who is going to travel from point A to point B or Z or C, whatever, right? But they are going to travel. Nowadays, we have people who travel by plane. To some, I can still fast. To some. And that's their right. Right? I don't want, well, if I eat this day, then I'm gonna have to make it up, and I don't want to do that because you have to look at it as like a credit that you have to pay off, right? And some people say, well, I don't want to carry that, so I might as well just go ahead and fast. Why? Because you say, well, I'm traveling the plane, I'm just sitting down, I'm not doing anything, and I'm gonna land somewhere, and then I'm not going through hardship, right? To them, I say I might as well just go ahead and fast that. Some people would say, no, I'm still traveling. Allah said travel. This is travel, correct? I'm not staying. I'm going from, Harrisburg to Seattle. It's a long flight. And it is travel, isn't it? Is it not? It's travel.
Are your prayer times different then? Are the prayer times different?
We'll talk about that later. But we want to focus on the traveling thing, right? So that is, to them, is travel. And they want to break their fast. Do they have the right to do that or no?
If they're traveling.
Yeah. They say, and they are in full right to do that. I'm going to break my fast because when Allah said, whoever is traveling, Allah knew that there is going to be planes. And maybe, 50, 100 years from now, there's going to be something else. We have no idea what it's going to be. But it is still travel. I'm leaving my place of residence and I'm going somewhere. Right? Any question? Yes.
So I have a question. When you say someone is sick or women in her period can make it up after Ramadan, she goes all the way to Ramadan. What if someone cannot, like someone with diabetic?
Yes.
So it will not be able to make
Okay.
it up.
So that's a very good point. We'll wait until this is done, and then we'll talk about that. Allahu Akbar. Do you want to take a picture of that before I erase it? Okay, so we'll answer the what Brother Ibrahim has raised up as what if a person has a chronic disease, and that's something that will stay with the person, so it's not going anywhere, and then the doctor tells them that you have to break your fast, you cannot fast, right? Or let's say an elderly person, because people will get to a certain age, they can't handle, or they have to take medication during the day. Sometimes they have to take more than one medication. Right? So the doctor again tells them that you are in no position to fast. Because if you fast, you're going to harm yourself. And the deen in the Quran, Allah said, Allah did not establish the deen for you, the religion for you, so that you can be in harm's way. It's quite the contrary, right? So that person, whether it's a male or female again, they have to actually give charity, right, for each day they break fast to a needy person, right? And they can either give it in a monetary or much better in like food, right? To feed a needy person for each day. Some people do it like for each day, like each day they go and give food to a needy person. And some people, they wait until the end and they give food for each of those days, which is always a good thing, right? And they call that in Arabic kafara. So we are going to come back to each one of these and then study them in detail. So like, for example, this one would be a whole class, right? And this one would be, I'm just throwing pointers now, but we will, like when we talk about Siyam, hopefully inshallah before the month of Ramadan, so you can be ready, we will talk about it in details, right? In much detailed details, right? Then there is Hajj. Hajj is called pilgrimage. And all of these, again, remember that these are a must, right? Obligatory act of worship, or what we call in Arabic, ibadah. Ibadah, always remember this word. Ibadah is worship, right? So all of these are worships. Hajj is a must for a male or female Muslim mature to make once in their lifetime, right? It's a must. However, there is some conditions, because Allah mentioned them in the Quran when He talks about this, right? He says that people have to make Hajj for those who can afford it, right? And then the scholars, they talk about it like when it comes to affording, it means money-wise and health-wise, right? So they have to be healthy to be able to do, because when you go to Hajj, there are rituals that you have to do. And for those rituals, trust me, you have to be healthy, right? Like when you go around the Kaaba, when you do the Safa and Marwa, when you do other things, then you have to be in a very good health. Otherwise, you won't be able to finish it, right? And then money-wise, like now, unfortunately, to go to Hajj, it will cost a fortune. Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate. I'll look at it as very unfortunate, but that's how it is now, right? So I don't even know what's the package, like the cheapest package to go to Hajj. Maybe six, huh?
For this year, at least 9,000 or
So
10,000. Yeah, with the COVID restriction.
Yeah, that's how it is.
They
right?
used to have a thing for people who became Muslim, it was a lottery. And if you were a new Muslim, like a convert to Islam,
Yeah, they used to do that.
Yeah,
they would,
we did it here actually. We send one brother to Umrah, not Hajj.
Mashallah.
And we're planning to do it inshallah. Once they resume, we'll do it inshallah.
but the Saudi government used to do it. They would,
That I'm not.
'Cause I knew, like,
This
two-
is local, that's
Okay.
something we did here.
yeah, that's nice. MashaAllah.
So yeah, so you have to have money and you have to have health to go and do it. If a person doesn't have either both of those things or one of those things, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will exempt you, that you don't have to do it, right? Some people say they have money, but they're not ready health-wise. Like old people, for example, right? They can actually appoint someone who has already made Hajj to go and do it for them, right? I give them money, I say, can you go make Hajj on my behalf? And they will do it. Like it will be counted as a Hajj for you, right? Just like Umrah, we'll speak about, because I don't want to confuse you, but we'll speak about that another time. And some people, they do more than one Umrah on behalf of other people, because it takes a lot less time to finish one Umrah in terms of rituals. Ritual number 1, 2, and then Umrah is done, right? So some people will do the Umrah for their deceased parents, for their relatives, for their friends, right? For their neighbors, they're Muslim, they can't go. They say, I'm going to do Umrah on this. And so you start with the niyyah. I've already raised it, the intention. And you say, oh Allah, I'm doing Umrah. I'm performing Umrah on behalf of Kimberly. Right? And then you start doing the rituals. The same goes for Hajj. If a person has money, they're very wealthy, but they waited and they got sick and they can't go there with their own body, then they can appoint somebody else. Any question, inshallah, about all of this before we move here?
We have about 10 minutes to pray, just so
So you guys want to pray, and then, or we still have 10 minutes?
we have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, we 20 minutes after that.
So any questions so far?
About these 5 things.
Don't be shy. Right? And then always remember, I'm going to tell you this. Always remember that in Islam, in general, you have the right to ask any question. Right? So there's no, you cannot ask this or you can ask that. Right? You have, or you can, or you have the right to ask any type of question. You might not get the answer all the time, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't ask the question. Right? All right, so since, do you remember how we started this whole discussion? Like how did we get
The Quran and the Hadith.
right? But which part was all this information from?
The Quran.
No, the Hadith, right? Because we said that the man came, a man, he was a man, like any other man. He came and sat near the Prophet, or close, very close to the Prophet, and he asked him, what is Islam? And so the Prophet started answering the man. He says, Islam is to do shahada, to establish salah, to do the zakah, and fast the month of Ramadan, and then do hajj, if you can afford it, health-wise and money-wise. Then he stopped, right? The man said to the Prophet, after he answered with these things, he said to him, you are correct, or you're right. The narrator of the hadith, do you remember his name? Omar, right? The narrator at that point, that specific point, he said that we were so amazed by this man. He is asking him and he is confirming his answer. Like, who is this guy? You see what I'm saying? Like, this guy showed up out of nowhere. Nobody knows who he is. And then he has the audacity to ask him and then confirm that, like, who is he? I mean, this is the Prophet, right? So who is he to even confirm? But they have not said anything, right? This is something that the men observed, right? Then after that, that same man, the unknown man, asked the Prophet, he says, okay, so since you answered what Islam is, can you tell me what Iman is? Right? And then the Prophet proceeded to say that Al-Iman, and tu'mina billah, is to believe in Allah.
SubhanAllah.
Allah. Those are two L's. Right? Is to believe in Allah. And tu'mina billahi. Tu'mina billah. From Iman. And His angels. To believe in Allah. And his angels. Third? Yes.
The unseen.
No.
The Prophet.
The Prophet comes here. But in all the divine revelations, all the books that Allah, right? Wa kutubihi, kutub, which is books, right? So all the prophets, some of the prophets, they received books, like we have the Quran, right? For Isa was the Injil, for Musa was the Torah, right? And so, but we have to believe in general in those books, right? Those books or divine revelations, divine books. And then after that comes prophets. Right? Prophets. Or messengers. So, to believe in Allah, to believe in His angels, in all the prior books, including the Quran, the prophets and messengers, and then the fifth one is
The unseen.
the last day,
No.
right? It's called the last day, or the day of
Judgment.
resurrection, or the day of judgment, or the day of recompense, or the day, right? But in the hadith, it comes as al-yawm al-akhir. In the Quran, you would come across this term a lot, al-yawm al-akhir. And Allah mentions it every time He says, those who believe in Allah and the last day. Those who believe in Allah and the last day, because they are interconnected, right? Nobody would stay on this earth forever. No one, right? Even the prophets didn't, and nobody will. And everyone would come to his date of expiration and they would have to leave, right? And the only one who remains alive is Allah alone, right? And then there's going to come a time when Allah would resurrect everyone up, all the way from Adam to the last person that's going to live on this earth. And that is called the last day. That's it. That's the come back, because now you're going to have to be held accountable and you have to be judged for each of the things that you put forth, right? And then here it is,
Predestination.
right, which is a qadar, the qadar, right? The predestination or the decree of Allah, right? So I think we'll stop and go pray and then come back and then just talk a little bit and then maybe we'll